everybody, Kevin Pennell, 3-time warm-up round world champion here with you on the You-Jitsu podcast and on my shiny new Audio-Technica AT2020 Plus USB microphone, doing a little podcast nerd. So hopefully it sounds a little better. So I wanted to share something that I shared on the BJJ subreddit that seemed to be pretty well received, and it was a great question. More importantly, is what's the difference between wrestling and submission grappling, and kind of Jiu-Jitsu? And here's my 2 cents, right? I'd be interested to see or hear from you all. Remember, you can go to kevtalkspod.com and go to the You-Jitsu link and give me your feedback. So here was my take, is wrestling is takedowns, throws, and control to pin your opponent, right? Just like college wrestling, high school wrestling, Olympic wrestling, a lot of folks have seen that. Submission grappling is wrestling plus joint locks, chokes to submit your opponent. And of course, some jiu-jitsu base in there. And then of course, gi jiu-jitsu, I think, involves wrestling, submission grappling, your killer pajamas to submit your opponent as well. And I've also seen questions from folks that maybe didn't do a little history, and I would highly recommend, of course, you could search the kevtalkspod.com website for history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling, but that wrestling has been integrated in Jiu-Jitsu, both gi and no gi, for quite some time, actually. But in particular in the 70s and 80s, holes, or R-O-L-L-S, rolls, but say it holes, right? R's or H's in Portuguese. But Holes Gracie got really big into wrestling, entered wrestling tournaments, got really good at wrestling, and then certainly integrated a lot of that in jiu-jitsu. And he was a big mentor for Rickson Gracie, right, who largely is the greatest jiu-jitsu player of all time. And so that's the cool thing about wrestling, I think, is these aren't independent, right, sports or grappling arts. They're so intermixed now. Of course, wrestling, they're not doing joint locks as much, but you get a stud wrestler in a jiu-jitsu class and they're new, they're still going to jack people up. So the difference is between whether you're just trying to pin somebody, whether you are wrestling and grappling and doing joint locks and chokes, or of course, whether you got those killer pajamas to grab onto. Thanks so much for listening to this brief on the You-Jitsu podcast, and feel free to hit me up, right? kevtalkspod.com, go to the You-Jitsu link. You'll see at the top there, and drop me a line. Give me some feedback. Thanks a lot. Remember, breathe, frame, survive.